Tractate Bava Kamma, page 78. I would like to share with you something I read recently in the newspaper, Shabbat magazine, Yated Ne'eman. They bring about the page we're going to study, page 78 in Bava Kamma. I'm just reading from the paper. It's called The Donkey's Merit. We find it on this daf. There are several halachot regarding a redeeming firstborn donkey. So about 100 years ago, many great luminaries of the old Yishuv, those who know the Eretz Israel, it was the Hayishuv Hayashan. So they attended Pidyon Haben, and at the meal was the previous Rav Rashi, Rav Kook, who served also as a Kohen, and the great Rav Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld. Although they often didn't see eye to eye, many are unaware of how considerate and respectful each was of the other. So the father invited Rav Kook to say a few words in honor of the affair. Rav Kook began to address the assembled guests, and he said, quote, "In Chulin, which is the consecrated animal, we find in the special tractate, we find an answer to a puzzling question. Why was the donkey chosen to fulfill the mitzvah of Pidyon Peter Chamor? After all, a donkey is a completely unclean animal." So the Gemara explains that the donkey was chosen because it bore the weight of the treasure that the Jewish people took out of Egypt. Rav Kook exclaimed, "Look at that. Even though a donkey is unclean and serves as a symbol for stubbornness, abstinence, and the like, it nevertheless receives a reward for carrying property to Eretz Israel." We see from here that even one who defiled and has bad midot, bad trait, can gain a modicum of holiness if he participates in the process of bringing the Jewish people from exile to Eretz Israel. So after Rav Kook completed his speech, Rav Sonnenfeld immediately got up and he said, "I had not intended to speak, but since the Rav of Yafo began his drasha, his speech, without drawing the natural conclusion, it behooves me in honor of his Torah to complete his drasha." So Rav Sonnenfeld continued, "Firstly, it is clear that he is correct. The donkey merited holiness because it served as a beast of burden for the Jewish people, despite its negative aspects. Nevertheless, the mitzvah of Pidyon Peter Chamor proves that it is impossible for the holiness to remain with an unclean beast. There are two possibilities. Either the holiness is transferred to a sheep, a clean animal, via the mechanism of Pidyon, or the only other alternative is that the donkey is killed." Anyway, we are, as we said, page 78, 9 lines from the top of the page. So, Ela ha de Amar Rava. So we talked yesterday about a thief that stole a diverse kilaim, meaning animal that came from cohabitation of two species, and then either he slaughter or sell. So he needs to pay 4-fold and 5-fold payment. And then we learn from the text yesterday, every time the Torah used the word sheep, se, we don't have the concept of diverse, of כלאיים. So they said, אלא דאמר רבא זה בנה אב, כל מקום שנאמר זה אינו אלא להוציא את הכלאיים. So every time we need to exclude this type of a concept, which is they establish a model that to exclude hybrid. So that apply to exclude this hybrid, this mixture. למאי הלכתה, when we use rava, drasha, exposition to exclude hybrid. If you talk about the sacrificial, consecrated sacrificial offering, because the Torah said in the book of Bamidbar, chapter 15, verse 11, או לעשה בכבשים או בעזים, so therefore the hybrid, the כלאיים, is not fitting. בהדיא כתיב בהו, it's written clearly when regards to offering, שור או כסף. You use the word or, meaning פרט לכלאיים. So that excludes a hybrid. So he said, אי למעשר. If you talk about the maaser offering, which means that you take the animal tithe. Remember the other day we talked about the time, the beginning of Elul, etc., the time of the animal tithe. So if you take that, the Torah commanded us that every one of the 10th, you give it to Hashem. Meaning, a person have a growing livestock each and every year. He need to sanctify it. It's called ma'asar be'ema, the animal tithe. You bring all the calf to, or all the sheep to goat, to a special location, deer, and you open a new hole and you let each animal come out so you can count them. And every 10th he marked with a red mark, and he said, this is ma'aser. That's what the Torah said in Leviticus chapter 27, verse 32. So the Mishnah in Bchorot, page 58b, elaborate and says, if that animal that was sanctified for the tithe is fitting for offering, he can bring it as an offering, and the meat is fitting for the owner to eat. Now, if it's blemish, meaning it's not tmima, it's not unblemished, so regardless if it was before the owner tithed it or after he tithed it, it can be slaughtered everywhere, and the owner can eat it as chulin, as unconsecrated animal, but he cannot do a cutting of the sheaves, the giza, because it carries some level of kedusha. Baal Ayelet HaShachar is one of the early commentators. He bring about this Gemara, and he said, we have a special verse for Maaser, for tithe, for Bchor, for the firstborn. So, why he asked, why the Gemara brings each of them a separate pasuk? You see now here they said, Shoro kesef prat lekilaim, ile maaser tachat yalif mikodashim. You learn a verbal juxtaposition because they use the word tachat in both. So the same way kilaim, you compare to hybrid to maaser be'ema, ilivchor ha'avara yalif mimaaser, because it's written the juxtaposition by using the term ha'avara, because they use v'ha'avarta kol peterechem la'Hashem in Shmot 13, and it's written kol asher ya'avor tachat hashavet in Vayikra 27. So he explained that kodashim, the consecrated animal, it's versus maaser is two different categories. Why? when it's come to maaser, to tithe, you bring the animals. So how it works? You bring the animal, you start counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? You count all those animals until you reach the 10th, and you say the 10 is kadosh. The 10 it's sanctified. Now, if he brings out a hybrid, a kilayim, so you may think that you can do it, B'chor Kodashim, or La Kohen, maybe you can use it as a kilayim. So therefore you need a limud miyuchad, you need a special source to tell you that neither maaser and not the firstborn, only those we said in a very general term, that hybrid is not fitting for consecrated. It's a very well-known a statement from the great Magid of Dubna, who was a great public orator and speech luminary. His name is Rabbi Yaakov of Duvna. So he asked a question: why do you need to count when you bring those animals? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the 10th you mark in red. Why you need to do that? So he said, if you have, for example, 100, you just selected 10, and that's it. So why you need to go by this way of counting? So he said, it's so beautiful. He says it's implication that Hashem said to a person, the Almighty said, look, I give you 1 animal, I give you 2, I give you 3, I give you 4, I give you 5. The only thing I ask for myself, quote unquote, is 1, is the 10th. You should be so thankful that I'm giving you 9 and you give me only 1. So it's just a reminder how much the Almighty give us. That's the Magid of Duvna. Anyway, העברה יליף במעשר. אינמי נדמה אמרת לו, דכתיב אח בכור שור, עד שיהיה הוא שור ובכורו שור. So it means that the firstborn has the appearance of an ox to the exclusion of mutant. Kil'ayin mi ba'aya, then it's necessary to teach us that a hybrid is not subject to a bechora, to the firstborn. The Taz, also the Levush, the Magen Avraham, ask similar question about a mixed etrog. It's called etrog murkav. So there are those who bring about a simple re'ayah, simple proof that you cannot use it. Some hold. Why? Because we learned that etrog shedome lekushi, if you have etrog that is total black, so it's not valid. Again, we have to differentiate between something that comes from Africa, that it's fine, versus a etrog that turn or bring about before us that is total dark color, so it's not fitting to use as a etrog. So therefore, kil'ai murkav, if you have a hybrid mixture, for sure it's pasul. So he said that's the yesod, that's the foundation in our Gemarrah, in our sugya here. So because sometimes it appears when you have harkava, you have etrog kil'ai, so it's pasul. But there are those who challenge that. They said when you talk about etrog adome lekushi, maybe it's an issue of hadar, of kind of beautification of the etrog. Etrog murkav, it appears nicer because it's a combination of more than one. So the Baal HaAfla'ah have ma'alach here. He says that kushi is meramez la tzaddik, it's implication for the proper righteous person. He said, if it's a total shachor, total black, so it's not an argument. Versus if it appear like righteous, then it's different. He brings this famous story about Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, that he said that a person should study Torah all day, not occupy himself with occupation. So the Gemara said, "Arbei nisu v'lo alta b'yidehem." Many people try it and didn't work out. So he explained, if people try to be Gemarrah Shibon ben Yochai, they try to be like him, that's different. You have to be yourself wherever you are, and be ish emet, be yourself, and then you will be successful. Anyway, back here, אלא כי איתמר דרבה לעניין פטר חמור. So we talk Rava's, the idea of binyan av, that's applied to what? The firstborn donkey, kidetnan. That's what we studied in Mishnah in Tractate Bava Kamma, page 12. Ein podin, lo be'egel, velo bechaya. You do not redeem a firstborn donkey, neither with a calf, nor with undomesticated animal. Velo bishchuta, velo betreifa, not in the slaughter lamb or kid, not with a treifa, velo bechilaim, not with a hybrid, velo bekoi. Koi, we say that it's a combination. If you have, for example, taish and tzviya, two type of animals, you cannot use a hybrid to pidyon peter chamor. So it means, when the Torah use the term se, it's not a hybrid, not a mixture, not kilaim. So the Gemara said, "Ul Rabbi Elazar de matir bechilaim ditnan." Rabbi Elazar matir bechilaim mipnei shehu se. Rabbi Elazar permits redeeming the firstborn donkey with a hybrid because it's a se, which means in both sides it comes from the species se. Lemay hilcheta, amar lach Rabbi Elazar, ki itmar derava letame shenolad min atahor. We have a non-kosher animal that was born from a kosher animal and impregnated by a non-kosher animal. For example, a horse that came from a mixture of cow with a horse, or a pig that came from the animal that combined with the pig. So that's what the Torah said. Zot ha'be'ema asher tochelu. This is the animal you can eat in Deuteronomy 14:4. Sech savim, seizim. So kil'aim, the hybrid is not part of the heter. Udelo keRabbi Yoshua. De'i Rabbi Yoshua misech savim v'seizim nafka lei ad she'eh aviv keves ve'imo kavsa, until the father is a lamb and the mother is a lamb. So that's basically, according to Rabbi Yoshua, it's both derived from the word ksavim. Now, the Khatam Sofer, very nice niche on that. He says, Ish ki kalel, if a person cursed his father or his mother, so the Torah said, damav bo. So the Midrash said that it's applied to the Aseret HaDibrot, the 10 Commandments. The 5th commandment on the right side said, honor your father and your mother. The 10th commandment on the left side they said, lo tachmod, you shall not cover your fellow's estate. So he said, if someone covet the wife of his fellow, that eventually he caused to have children who was not good. So they said, one may said, look, I'm not honoring my father because my father don't deserve to be honored. The problem is not mine, the problem is my father. So therefore he said, no. The Torah emphasized and said, Ish ki kalel et aviv et imo damav bo, which means don't put the blame on your father, put the blame on yourself, make a self-search and honor your father. So the Gemara said, Utehora mitmea mi me'abra. You mean to say that a kosher animal conceive from a non-kosher animal? That therefore the pasuk need to prohibited a hybrid that come out of this matter of cohabitation, because the Gemara in Tractate Bava Kamma, page 7, Rashi reminds us, said that this cannot be a matter of cohabitation. So the Gemara said, and that's a possibility. Now, the truth is, nowadays, many times they have a discussion where the child came from. Is a Gemara in Bava Batra, famous Gemara, that come to a Amora, one of the rabbis in the Talmud, for a special session, so a special din Torah, and ask a question. It was two that claimed that someone is their father, one wealthy individual. So the question is, one has to be his servant, his slave, and one is his son. But it wasn't clear who and what. So the Amora directed them, and he says, go to his grave, bang on his grave, and said, come and tell us who are your real son from two of us. So it turns, one person banged on his grave, the other person didn't. So they came back to the rabbi, he says, whoever did not bang on the person's grave is the real son. Why? Because the slave doesn't care to do it. The son have natural respect to his father, and he didn't do it. So the truth is that there's some Mefarshim said that he hoda bechol mikra, he agreed anyway, because you cannot nafik mamon, you cannot put a monetary payment based on this notion. The Eliyahu Rabbah asked a question. They bring the Sefer Hasidim, bring that story like that happened by the great Rabbeinu Seadia Gaon. It was the great early Gaonic rabbi, about 7th century. And they said that he advised to take a tooth and combine it with the blood of the son. That's earliest time, before the modern medicine, right? And he said that the blood, the dama eved lo nivla, the blood of the slave did not combine with that tooth. So he asked a question, why the Gemarrah in Bava Batra did not follow that direction. But anyway, there are many, kol minei ofanim lezahot, there are many ways to identify things in the early times. So anyway, here we say that in Rabbi Yehuda case, the kosher animal can indeed conceive from a non-kosher animal. Why? Because we have a foundation that Rabbi Yirmiyah gives us, established for us in Gemarrah in Tractate Bechorot, page 7, the Kaimelan, page 78b, the abar mikalut ki Rabbi Shimon. That here Rabbi Yehuda is talking about a kosher animal that conceived from an unclothed, hoofed kosher animal, which considered a non-kosher according to Rabbi Shimon. The Torah tells us in Leviticus 11, verses 3 to 17, that the kosher animal are those who have ma'alot geira or mafrisot parsa. So it means that they have the uncloven hoof. So Rabbi Yoshua in Tractate Bechorot, page 7, agreed with Rabbi Shimon that an animal born with uncloven hooves from two kosher animals is indeed kosher and permitted for consumption. So he said, Ba'i Rava. The truth is, Rabbi Shaul Natanzon explained. The Torah said, Ubat ish kohen ki techel liznot et avia היא מחללת באש תישרף. The daughter of Kohen that involved with being a harlot, so she desecrated the father. So the father is prohibited to walk in Beit HaMikdash. So the Magen Avraham asked a question. If the daughter went and did avodah zarah and worship idols, so the father is not lo nidcha ba'avodah, the father still can do work. But meaning he's not prohibited to do nesiat kapayim, right, to go on duchan and bless. Why? Why he's not nifsal la'avod baduchan? Why he's not invalidated? Versus if she hell is not, it can nifsal. So he explained based on Drashot Haran. Drashot Haran said, if you look at the story of Abraham and Yitzchak Avinu, our forefather Abraham and Isaac, they said that he instructed Eliezer And he said to his servant Abraham, said to Eliezer, Lo tikach isha livni mibnot Canaan. Don't bring a wife for my son from the daughter of Canaan. Ki im el arzi ve'el moladeti telech. You should go only to my land, the place I came from. So, what he found there? The sister of Lavan, the daughter of Betuel, people who were idol worshipping. So the Torah said, "Vanuchi piniti tabai," that it's idol worshippers. So he explained, when it's come to midot raot, when it's come to a bad traits, that's applied to daughter of Canaan, like znut, like bad behavior, that can be inherited. Versus hanagot, personal trait, personal certain manner, certain behavior, this is different. You can change a person. So, therefore, the Torah, the Abraham differentiate between the two. Anyway, Bae Rava, Are alai ola v'ifrish shor. So if someone accept upon himself, and he said, it is hereby incumbent upon me to bring a burnt offering, and he sanctify an ox, ובאחר וגנב, and somebody else came in and stole it, מי פטר גנב נפשה בחבס לרבנן? So you mean to say that the thief exempt himself with the lamp according to the sages? בעולת העוף לרבי אלעזר בן עזריה דתנן, הרי עלי עולה, יביא כבש. רבי אלעזר בן עזריה אומר יביא תורו בן יונה. He needs to bring, according to Rabbi Dr. ben Azariah, either young dove or a turtle dove or young dove. מי אמרינן שם עולה קביל אילווי? Maybe the one who makes a vow, except upon himself only to bring an offering with the name עולה, or דילמה מציעא אמר לי, or maybe the one who's been stolen can say to the thief, Ana mitzvah min amur uvchar ba'inan lemebad. I wish to do a high level of the choice of mitzvah, and I want a compensation of the value of an ox. So the Maharam mints have a malach here. He says if Reuven, for example, stole from Shimon, let's say a gavia, gavia, a silver cup, it can have different prices. For example, if it's a silver cup from a big Hasidic Rebbe that lived 100 years ago, so it can be $10,000. Versus a silver cup you buy in a store, it can be $50, right? So if he stole that one and bring back to you something that's worth 50, or let's use more mitzvot, let's say tefillin. You have a pair of tefillin that can be a $1,500, you have a pair of tefillin that have $350, or you have a trog. You have a trog that can be $250, and you have an etrog that can be $30. So he tried to bring a proof from our Gemarrah that if you steal a mitzvah, right, you're stealing a trog. So even Reuven paid for that etrog $150, okay? But if you can get kosher etrog for $25, so you can bring it back because it can be used for the mitzvah for that time. But the Mishneh Lamelech and Shvut Yaakov and Chacham Tzvi strongly oppose it, and they said you cannot compare Korban Olah, a burnt offering, to this, because here we talk about case that Reuven stole from Hekdesh, from something that is consecrated. So when it's come to Korbanot, to offering, you can bring anything that can be an offering. Versus when it's come to Tefillin, people sell Tefillin for certain prices. So they have which called Shovi Mamoni, a monetary value by people. Versus something that was stolen from Hekdesh, from something from the temple treasury. So it's not by the person evaluation. For example, if you have something from your grandpa, so you have emotional attachment, but it doesn't mean that it carries a monetary value, market values. But there are certain things that have a market value. Like he said, like the Pri Megadim said, when you have chametz after Pesach, so you can say Arei shelcha lefanecha, but with the trog, the Pri Megadim said it's not the same. So as we said, we have to differentiate between this and things that people have a value. Batar de ibaya, hadar pashat, ganav patar atzmo bechevez lerabanan. So he said that the thief can exempt himself with lamb according to the sages. Be'olat ha'of leRabbi Elazar ben Azariah. With the bird ola according to Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. רב אחא ברי דרב איקרא מתנא לה בהדיא, אמר רבא, הרי עלי עולה והפריש שור, באחרת וגנבו פטר עצמו בחבס לרבנן, ובעולת האוב לרבי אלעזר בן עזריה. So the פנים יפות have a discussion why the Torah, when it's come to עולת האוב, they use להשם versus regular עולה, it's not. Also עולת האוב, לשון יחיד is a singular. When it's עולה, it's written in the plural. So he explained that korban ola kalil. But anyway, even that is total burn, the or, the skin, is to be given to the kohanim. Versus olata of, they are all burn, including the skin, and therefore they use the word lahashem bilshon yachid, in a singular way. So the story about the rabbi of Rupshitz, he's a great Hasidic rabbi. So when it's come to close to Elul, we're getting close, Lichot, he used to make a special seudot, a special meals. And people were wondering, it's a time for tshuva, it's a time for reflection and preparations. That many people fast in preparation for the days of Oz. So he explained, the Gemara in Beitzah tells us in page 16, Kol mezonotav shel adam ktsuvim lo, there's a yearly budget for everything, the same way as we said in Rosh Hashanah, who shall live, who should die. It's also make decision how much, what's going to be a yearly budget, etc. So he said all those who ate inappropriately all the year, so they round out of their budget. But there are those who think very carefully when they ate, and they always think before they ate that what I'm eating is in order to serve God, etc. So they left a lot of things in their budget, they need to use it up. And he implied that indirectly they need to do teshuvah. But in general, it's in halakha, just general point, in halakha there is a big discussion when someone gets aliyah, in a practical way. You go to a shul, you get aliyah. And the Gabbai said, Ba'avur she'iten matana, that he will give a gift to the synagogue. How much is it? Try to bring Gemarrah in Shabbat, Gemarrah in Menachot. It's also the same way as the code, the Shulchan Aruch have a discussion about ta'anit yachid, one individual accept upon himself a fast. So if it's bedibur, if he expresses it in words, is one thing. But how about machshava? A person just thinking about to take a fast day. Is that considering the same as korban, the same as offering? Because by the korban, what we learn, we say that we learn that it's a mi'ut, chelev and dam, the fat and the blood, that's what we said by the end of the fast day. So if it's only machshava, if it's only in thought, is that have an effect or not? It's a discussion in halakha. Mishnah bring other option when the thief is not obligated to pay fourfold and fivefold payment for slaughtering or selling the animal. So the Mishnah Gdosha tells us, if someone stole ox or sheep, mecharo chutz me'echad mime'ah shebo, if the thief sold the stolen animal with the exception of 100 of it, or she'ayta lo bo shutafut, or if he had a partnership in it, and after stealing it from his partner, he slaughtered or sold it, השוחט ונתלבלה בידו, והנוחר, Nocher, we explain that they slaughter the animal in a different way from the nostril to the heart. That's the way they kaneh and vesher, that's a different way. Rashi explained that that's a different way of slaughtering. That Gemarrah in Chulin 85b try to say that is a form of choking. But anyway, they said והמעקל משלם תשלומי כפל ואינו משלם תשלומי 4 ו5. Because when it's come to sell, you have to be בשלימות, in full, not חלקי, not in portion, the same as slaughtering. מהי חוץ ממאה שבו? So Gemara asks, what is the meaning with the exception of 100 of it, which means part of the animal when they withheld from the sale. So that's a meaningful exclusion that causes the thief to be exempt from the תשלומי 4 ו5. אמריו, חוץ מדבר הניתר עמו בשחיטה. From the something that become permitted toward the שחיטה. ולוי אמר חוץ מגיזותיה, which the wool that stands to be shorn from it. וכן תניא במתניתא חוץ מגיזותיה. מייטיבה, running out of time. Okay. מחרה, חוץ מידה, חוץ מרגלה, חוץ מקרנה, חוץ מגיזותיה, אינו משלם תשלומי 4 ו5. רבי אומר, דבר המעכב בשחיטה אינו משלם תשלומי 4 ו5, שאינו מעכב בשחיטה, משלם תשלומי 4 ו5. רבי שמעון בן אלעזר אומר, חוץ מקרנה, אינו משלם תשלומי 4 ו5, חוץ מגיזותיה, משלם תשלומי 4 ו5. בישלם לוי כתנא קמא אלא לרב כמן. אמרי רב דאמר כי תנא דתניא. רבי שמעון בן אלעזר אומר, מחרה, חוץ מידה. וחוץ מרגלה אינו משלם תשלומי 4 ו5, חוץ מקרנה, חוץ מגיזותיה, משלם תשלומי 4 ו5, ומה כמפלגה? תנא קמא סבר, וטבחו כולו בעינן, ומכרו כולו בעינן. ורבי סבר, וטבחו מידי דהווה בטביחה, לאפוקי מידי דלא הווה בטביחה, ומכרו דומי בטביחה. ורבי שמעון בן אלעזר סבר, קרנא דלא למגזא קיימא, הווה שיעור. ואינו משלם תשלומי 4 ו5, גיזותיה דלמי גז קיימי, לא הווה שיעור. הוא משלם תשלומי 4 ו5. סבר, ידיו ורגליו לצריכי טביחה, הווה שיעור. ולא משלם תשלומי 4 ו5, קרנותיה וגיזותיה, דלא צריכי טביחה, לא הווה שיעור. So the Gemara said, קשיא דרבי שמעון בן אלעזר דרבי שמעון בן אלעזר, תראי תנאי ברבי שמעון בן אלעזר, תנו רבנן, הגונב הכיתת ואת החיגרת. שיטה מקובלת, מאירי, what exactly it means, that it's part of the leg or part of the head missing, ואת הסומה וכן הגונב במאת השותפים חייב. ושותפים שגנבו פטורים, ועתנו שותפים שגנבו חייבים, הרב נחמן או קשיא, כאן משותף שגנב בחברו, כאן משותף שגנב בעלמה. So the קצות החושן, have the discussion of אין שליח לדבר עבירה. Anyway, they just very short, the פנים יפות ask, why the Torah said in the 10 commandments לא תגנוב? And the Parashat Kedoshim, Leviticus, they said, Lo tignovu, in plural. So he said, when it's come to Mavet, when it's come to death, when two people did it, as we learn here, you cannot impose upon the two. Versus in Kedoshim, when it's come to monetary, so it's Lashon Rabim, if two people steal, so they obligate to pay. That's the פנים יפות. הייתי ברבא לרב נחמן יכול, שותף שגנב וחברו, שותפים שגנבו יהיו חייבים, תלמוד לומר וטבחו כולו בעינן וליקה. אלא אמר רב נחמן לא קשיא, כאן בשותף שטבח לדעת חברו, כאן בשותף שטבח שלא לדעת חברו. ביי רבי ירמיה, wish to have time. מחרה חוץ מ30 יום, חוץ ממלאכתה, חוץ מעוברה מהו? אליבא דמאן אמר עובר ירחימו לא תיבא אלך. והשאר בה, כי תיבא אלך אליבא דמאן אמר דובר לה בירחימו מאי. מאמר אמרין כיוון דמחובר בה ושיעור, עודין מה כיוון דלים מפרש מנעקה, לא אהבה שיעור. יקדא אמרי כיוון דלה בירחימו, לא אהבה שיעור. עודין מה כיוון דסתרך להשתרויה בעדה בשחיטה, כיוון דשאר בגופה דמתיקו. ביי רב פאפה. גנבה, קטעה ומחרה, if one stole an animal, amputated it, and then stole it, מהו? מי אמרי למאי דגנב הלא זבן, או דילמה, מאי דזבן הלא שייר. So they said, the lefted teiko, it's unsolved. So the poskim, just a conclusion, 1 minute, poskim have a discussion. Rabbeinu Asher, the Rosh, said, אם תפס, מפקינן מיני. But כאן, here we have a ספק קנס. So גם אם תפס, מפקין על מיני. But I'd like to conclude with the statement from the Admor Meropshitz, who was a great rabbi that used to have yichudim, special concentration when he prayed, when he ate, etc. Was Muram Me'am, was a great rabbi. It was Rosh Yeshiva, Rabbi Ber Schneerson, or Baruch Shimon Schneerson. He wrote a kuntres, a special booklet over explanation, deep explanation of the jokes that this rabbi used to make. So it wasn't just a joke, it was secret of understanding. So at the end of his life he hardly speaks because he couldn't make these yichudim. But anyway, one of the jokes, he was talking to Reb Zundel of Rupshitz. And he looked at him and he says, "You look like under great stress." Why? He says, "You lost your bag of talit and tefillin." But he says, let's think together. You have two pair of tefillin. You have Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam. So he said, one is Rabbeinu Tam, one is Rashi. And then the talit is Terkai. And then the Sidur is Bardicho. So what do you under pressure from the bag? So the explanation he tried to say is this. It wasn't just a joke. It was deep understanding. So a person sometimes think, I have some chesronot and some alot. I have something that I'm not so great, and there are things that I'm awesome. I have some sins, and I have some good deeds, some mitzvot. But a person should know that it's not necessarily him. All these mitzvot, all these pluses. Sometimes it's because of his zchut avot. He have his great parents, other people that teachers. So maybe because of his grandfather, he has all these privileges. The beauty in life is that the person should always strive to make things for his own merit. So if you look at yourself, you look at yourself as a little bag that carries talit, tefillin, sidur. If you search yourself, what do I have ma'ala atzmit? What do I have? Something that I established with 10 fingers myself, that I improve myself to make myself a better person, to make the world a better place to live. And that's something that should not be just a bag that carries the talit and tefillin and the sidur.